Good evening, welcome one and all. Yes, we are live here from Worcester in England. Good evening, one and all. Please do say hello in the comments. And yeah, bright lights or whatever. So it is dark here, so I've had to put some lights, hence the reflection on my glasses. So I try and turn my head an angle so it doesn't look like I've got a couple of things shooting at me or like some kind of alien. Good evening. There's already quite a few of you. So I was just going to, I do have some notes. So it's going to be structured because there'll be a lot of people watching this on replay. So I'm going to try and keep it remain structured. You can ask Q&As at any time. And as and when I come along to that point of the thing, that what I'm going to go through in sort of order of play. But before I say what order of play I'll be going through everything, I just need to give a big shout out and thank you to each and every one of you who have been watching and supporting. There's been a massive, massive uptake on views, subscribers. I'm absolutely blown over where in less than 24 hours, there was over 2,000 views of yesterday's summary. The short edit version, there will be a full edit version next week, Tuesday. I've just uploaded that and it's ready to go live as a premiere as well. So that's on the 7:30. So thank you all so much for the amazing support and comments. A lot of them have really made me chuckle, and it's quite inspirational hearing so many stories from each and every one of you. As I say, there are so many of you new people. Feel free to say hello. We don't bite here and we can chat amongst ourselves. I do have my keep calm and carry on cuppa, so don't mind me while I have a quick drink. Because there's a lot to get through. I'm going to be speaking quickly as I do. I have got my Therma shirt on, completer. Yes, so if you did run it, I'd love to hear from you what you thought of the race and if you've got any tips, reviews and so on. But what I'm going to go through, and one more thing to mention is tomorrow evening or afternoon, I'm publishing a video of a lot of people have been asking questions, what my training was, what I've done, and this and that. But I actually pre-recorded the final taper week because I know a lot of people get a bit of paranoia taper. I know Brighton Marathon is coming up this Sunday as well. So and other marathons as well. Milton Keynes Marathon is coming up in May. So I done a taper week videos that can be used and you can review that. So I done a day by day what I was doing in terms of training, eating, drinking, massages, reviews right up to the Saturday night, including my pizza eating. Yes, as you do in taper week. Lots of carb loading and a few delicacies that I'd cooked myself. So yes, in terms of order of play, there's quite a few. So please do say hello, comments, questions. So I'm going to go through in terms of order. I've got 6 points. As I held 5, I need the other hand, 6. There you go, 6 points. So I'm going to be going through basically the morning itself and what went on there during the actual race in terms of pace strategies and so on and so forth, nutrition during the actual race. I'm going to touch on, unfortunately, I had that glute back issue from around mile 8. So I'll talk about how I manage that because some of you may have niggles, injuries, and how you're dealing with that if you do race. The actual finishing, and then recovery. So I'm going to go through those 6 points in that particular order. So if you've got any questions regarding those, then please do fire away whenever you do. And obviously being live, I do love my little things. Those of you who are new, you might see some stuff and think, wow, what is going on here? So this is me. That's how I do it. I'm very different to virtually all the other YouTubers. But then I think I'm the only 60-year-old on YouTube who posts regularly. But anyway, that aside, here's my little ditty intro. Did you like that? Did you like that? And obviously, if you do have any, you can follow me on the socials, Poet with Pace, on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. And if you ever needed to email me about anything, questions, queries, then you can email me at Poet with Pace. So without further ado, let's get on with the show. So I've got, as I mentioned, the morning. What did I do in the morning? And a lot of this will be covered in the sort of fuller video that's going through next week on the Tuesday evening. But for the morning, I was up pretty early. A lot of people do stress about getting a good night's sleep the night before. And that's not that important. I didn't get much of a good night's sleep because I was quite excited And as Jack Daniels, not the Jack Daniels Scotch drink, but Jack Daniels' famous coach trainer, he'll say that the night before a marathon, nerves kick in. It doesn't matter whether you get a good, bad, or indifferent night's sleep. It's about the week before, in terms of the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and so on. So in the morning, it was literally just a cup of tea, Barry's tea at that. So thank you, Eon, for the Barry's tea, and one bagel. And that's the prep that I do. I do a lot of mobility exercise that I do anyway every day. And but that's just to get me going first thing in the morning. Obviously, I need a toilet stop before anything gets up. But that's me. That's my routine. That's what works for me. I know a lot of people have their toilet stop when they go and get changed, when they're getting ready at race points, and on one of the Portaloos. But for me, normally on marathon day, it's in the hotel where I'm staying at. So good evening, everyone. Every now and again, I'll cut out what I'm going through there and look at your comments, because there's a lot of you here. I love in all the comments. So Rachel, Colin, Dan, Keith as well is on. So Joe and Longsight Lad. Hello, everybody. And as I say, you can ask some Q&As as we go along. But big respect to Colin Johnson and to his twin, Keith, both finishing amazing races. But Colin, what an incredible PB, mate. It's are you still buzzing? I know you're taking it easy, but easy for you is quite tough for a lot of people. But 2:53 is incredible. And Rachel, we're all rooting for you for Stratford Marathon. We know you can do it. So get to it. But and this might help you, Rachel, in terms of race strategy. Yes, here we go. So my race strategy, thankfully, you might have seen on the video that I was with Kieran, my run buddy, and we've done some training runs together. We've done some long runs, and I first met him last year, and it's quite serendipitous meeting Kieran. And we meet people at these races, and things happen, and so on and so forth. And we sort of built a friendship there. And he's a great guy, Kieran. And with our training runs, we're pretty similar times. So when we were doing the park runs, going at a certain pace, we're of similar-ish fitness. And I bet you're still buzzing, Colin. Yes, everybody loves a PV. But with myself and Kieran, we're pretty similar. Whilst our ages are poles apart, yeah, he's nowhere near 60. He's a fit, young, healthy lad. I'm 60, coming up 61 in May. But age is immaterial in terms of when you're training together. There's people of all different ages training. So my strategy was basically me and Kieran, we run together. So we worked out that we would start slowly. And what's slowly for others is different slowly for others. The biggest mistake that I would say 95% of marathon runners do is they go off too fast, and which results in a number of things. And I won't go through all of that. I mean, at the end of the day, it's the DNF didn't finish, is bonking. You run out of energy, and you're basically falling apart. And then there's other issues that can happen later on in a race if you're going off too fast. And it happens to the best of people as well. And what's too fast for one may not be fast for other. The ideal pace strategy is even pace. So the time that you've done the first half is the time that you've done the second half. So whilst we both started slowly for the first few kilometers, so it was about the first kilometer was a little way too slow, and Kieran picked up on that immediately. I think we ran a 4:40 minute kilometer. Yeah, not 4 minute mile, by the way. I work in kilometers, being European. So that was way too slow. So we picked it straight back up to around 4:25, 4:20 per minute kilometer, sorry. Because the strategy was to go sub 3, which Kieran achieved, yeah. And I'll talk through what happened. So our goal was sub 3. So the idea was to reach the halfway mark around 1:30, and then keep going and do that in 1:30. That was the strategy. So easy pace, pick it up, hold it, and then pick up again, and then maintain that all the way through. So it was go slow. And for me and Kieran, it was around 8 to 10 kilometers where we were going slow-ish compared to the sub 3 pace. And then as we picked up, we were going quicker. And that was the actual strategy. So the idea is even splits. Even splits is the best way. But as I said, for most people, I would say 95%, it's positive splits where the second half is a much longer time than the first half. If you look at anyone's race results, you'll see a graph where it sort of goes along and it's sort of dropping down, down, down. Whereas if you look at most of the elite guys, it will be even. And some people can actually pick it up and finish really strong and do a massive negative split. But that's the ultimate, isn't it, for most people? And how we achieve all of that depends on our pacing and what nutrition we take on, which is my third point, nutrition. And I know this will rile a few people when I say what I take on, but this is what I'm saying is me. This is what I do. I'm not recommending this to anyone. I'm just going through. This is my race review and what I've done and what works for me. And having done a number of marathons, I think I've lost count now. Obviously, nowhere near what Colin, or when you see the full race review, you'll see a guy called Nick Coburn, who's part of the 100 Marathon Club, but he's done over 350 marathons. And his nutrition strategy, I'm sure, is completely different to mine and many other people's. So it's all different. Because of the cold temperatures, and it was, proper brass monkey cold weather, because it was -1 when I was up at about 6, and I think it warmed up to +3 Celsius. So temperature has a very, very strong indication of what type of nutrition we need to take on board. And apologies if it's stating the obvious. And again, it's different for different people. But the hotter it is, the more fluids we need to take on. Does that make sense? So the amount of fluids I took on during this race, because it was only +3 Celsius, I think it did warm up to +6 Celsius during the race, and obviously our body warms up anyway. I took on 0 water during the race, and I've done that in other races as well. So that's what works for me. I run to thirst, and I didn't feel thirsty at any point during the race. I did make a massive mistake during one race a couple of years ago, where it was freezing cold and I was taking on fluids, and I lost count of the multiple toilet stops that I had to do, because, as I say, for me, when it's really cold, taking on fluids, it just literally goes straight through me and out, and having lots of toilet stops is not a good idea for me. Some people might like lots of toilet stops and so on and so forth. That's fine. If that's what works for you, great, carry on doing that, but not for me. So whilst I took on 0 water, 0 fluids, I did take on 4 gels. So I'm a gel type person. I know some people take on fluid, solids, foods, and all different stuffs. So for me, it was Torque gels, and it was just 4 gels and splitters, 2 regular gels and then 2 caffeine gels. And I know, Rachel, when I ran with you, you like your caffeine gels, and they act as a little boost towards the end. And yeah, I just love the flavors. It just so happens that the caffeine ones are like coffee flavor, latte, as they say. I do like that flavor. So if I could, I'd probably have them all the way through, these coffee ones. But hey, and as Colin has stated here, if you read the comment that Colin Johnson has left, we're all different in nutrition. Find what works for you is an integral part of training. And there you go. So we had a tiny amount of water, but I had a gel at every single aid station. I know it says aid station, but I know the old typo and spell checker, aid station. So take a gel. There was a number of aid stations, and I know some people take yeah, you hated the latte. I like the latte. You see, we're all different. I did have an orange one as well, and it's the and we've got Keith commenting, who's the twin brother to Colin, and they're both they're twin brothers, and they have different nutrition because they run differently and so on and so forth. So do what works for you. That's why we have long training runs and nutrition. Walkthroughs, tough throughs. That's why we practice. Let's say I think I've done about 14 marathons, and it's been different for different ones. When I ran London in October, I just took three gels, or it might have been 2. I can't remember. I'll have to look back on that, but it was 2 or 3. But I was running at a different pace, and it was different temperatures and so on. And there I did take on water, because obviously it was warmer. And I know that for Kieran, because we were running together, he was taking on water at almost every aid station. But when we've done training runs, he drinks like a fish, and I'm not touching any water. So again, we've got different bodies, different stuff. Whereas I like my gels, he prefers jelly babies. He drinks lots of water. I don't drink any water. So both very different, but we are different people. So do what's called fuse. So for me, because it was cold, I didn't take many fluids. I think that's almost like a general rule of thumb for most athletes, is the colder it gets, the less fluids we need to take on compared to a hotter temperature, irrespective of who we are. So, if we're taking on water at every aid station during the hot weather, then it might be a case that when we do take the water at every aid station, it's just a sip and then let the rest go. So rather than gulping down the whole 200 milliliters or however much is in these little bottles that are passed on. So that's the actual nutrition side. If you have any questions, queries, you can fire them away at any point. So going on to point number 4, which is a bit of a sore issue for me, because it was very sore. And I know when we come to the latter parts of a marathon, irrespective of what our strategies are, fatigue can set in. And for me, unfortunately, the glute back issue hadn't fully cleared. I did have a full massage on the Tuesday of the final taper week, which you'll see on tomorrow's video when that comes out. So the full taper week, I always have a massage, early on in the week. And I did have another massage yesterday as a recovery massage, and boy, did that hurt. So this morning I was pretty stiff. So we need to allow our bodies to recover from the massages. So whilst the massage and the person massaging me, had identified what the issue was, and basically down my back, there was some very tight muscles. And I think, I'm not a qualified physio, but, without stating the obvious, when things tighten up, it grabs onto a nerve, and I could feel the nerve through. It might have been a sciatic nerve or whatever, but from about mile 8, I could begin to feel it. And I knew I needed to basically manage that pain. And this is where something we all sometimes need to do at certain points. Even if we go into the race fully fit and ready, there's going to be points where maybe a calf starts feeling sore, or a quad, or a glute. And what do we do to manage, basically manage our bodies and pain? And what we do, again, it's all part of the practice. For me, I just simply had to slow the pace down and maintain a slower pace. So that's when Kieran then pulled away and left me for dust, shall we say. And that's where basically I was just managing the pain and going through. So going around Altrincham, you probably see me in that video mentioning that I had been managing it. So by there, it was mile 16. So I felt really good. And there was the point where, you come in as the miles are progressing, and it was a rolling course. They say it's flat and fast, not fat and fast. So yeah, you can tell this is live. Get my words together. It's flat and fast, yeah. And but it is a rolling course, yeah. So there are some little cheeky hills, certainly around Altrincham. I think is the biggest cheeky hill, and they take it out of you, especially as the distance is progressing. And the last couple of miles where I talk about the finishing, you've seen that finish. And normally I don't film myself when I'm panting and gasping and in absolute agony. I'm praying for the finish line. But before that, when Colin went flying past me, literally at mile 21, that was such a boost. I think passed me outside Sale tram station or whatever it was, around mile 21. So we're getting into what we call the meaty time of the race from about mile 20. Everyone says that the start of a marathon starts at mile 20. From there on, and chatting with Colin, I had from sort of here up, I felt totally fine, totally in control. But from there down below, in particular the left leg, it just didn't want to really move. So it's just a case of keeping the legs turning over. And as much as my mind wanted to keep up with Colin, and spiritually I think I was up at his speed, the body wasn't keeping up. So Colin sped off into the distance and running a cracking time. And then it was just a case of one leg in front of the other. And when it comes to those last couple of miles to finishing, and I say the last, I think looking at the incline on my GPS, it was a gradual climb to the finish. I think the last 400 meters, then when you went over a point, it was sort of downhill. So the finishing was sort of flat, semi-downhill, but getting up to that point, it was all, yeah. I mean, the uphills are compensated by the downhill, but for me, my quads can't take the downhills. So it doesn't compensate for me. And I don't know if anyone relates to that, but You know, I often hear the uphills and the downhills, but it takes a skill to run down a hill fast, in the same way as to climb up a hill. So that was the finishing, and I was done there, done and dusted. And you know, I've sped through all of that in terms of the race event. I can do a review in terms of the kit and the clubber that I was carrying. A number of people ask me, how do they carry their mobile phones? How do I carry my mobile phone? And obviously I'm carrying my camera. You know, I've got my camera as well, you know, the old GoPro camera, all the gear, you know, running around, chatting, singing. And when you see the full video edits, there was considerably a large amount of singing during the event. I wouldn't recommend that for everyone, but it helps keep my spirits going. But last but not least, I mean, a number of people, there was a live stream apparently of the event. A number of people commented that it looked like I was about to faint at the finish line. Well, it's not a case of it didn't look like, is I nearly did, but the legs sort of like, way. Thank you, Colin. Yeah, I did look, I was very strong at mile 21 and the fitness was there, but the legs didn't want to move. The mechanics, the injury didn't want to let me move any quicker, which is why right now, when I talk about recovery, I feel like up here, I can go for another marathon. I did edit in, I didn't realize that when I'd finished, in terms of the recovery, because I'll talk about the recovery immediately after the race, when I finished the race, because there was the one of the beer sponsors, I can't remember, Erdinger, that's the beer. So it's a non-alcoholic beer. I guzzled that down, and they gave some recovery bars, protein bars. So basically I was taking anything that they were giving at the finish for free. I was just putting it down my throat. The bottle of water that was given to me. And thank you for that question, Rod. I'll come on to that one because it is a very good one. A lot of people have asked me about that. So when we finish a marathon, it's essential. Now, whilst I mentioned I didn't take on any fluids during the race, it's essential that I replace the fluids because irrespective of the temperature, I would have sweated. And thankfully, there's fluids in the gels. So those 4 gels, there's a certain amount of fluid going in there. But it's essential to get fluid. So at the finish, they always have bottled water. So I always make a quip saying, is it gin or whatever? But no, it's water. Guzzled the whole bottle really quickly. Then had the Erdinger beer, recovery protein bar. You would have seen me lying flat on the mat. Therma were the main sponsors, and they do like rest and relaxation and holidays or whatever. I should really look up what these sponsors do, but hotels, all that kind of stuff, I think they do. And I could barely move. So in answer to your question, I mean, the strengthening and stretching, whenever I finish, I always do all the static stretches, you know, stretching all the calves, quads. I do the adductors. I should stand up and show you all the moves or whatever, but look them up. And it's a case of stretching all the legs because my legs did feel like lead. I could hardly move. And I'm sure a lot of people can relate to that when you finish. Whatever time you finish it in, you feel like, you know, oh, can I walk? Done that recovery. I then, as part of the recovery, I quickly, because it was still cold and I could start feeling the chill, it was essential for me to put warm clothes on. So as part of the bag packing that I had long tracksuit bottoms, I had tops, I had my coat, hat, scarf, everything to keep my body warm so that, you know, it can recover quickly. So when it's cold, and the same if it's hot, you know, if it's hot, you want to get in the shade. If it's cold, you want to get warm. So it's to keep the body at the right temperature so it's able to process that. Now, last but not least, because once I'd done all that and the stretching, went and picked up my bag. In my bag, I had, I use Torq products, by the way, TORQ. Yeah, TORQ. I have protein powder mix. So I'd already had a bottle of water in my bag and the protein powder. Mix that, and literally that didn't even hit the sides when I drank that. That helps tremendously for me recovery. And that was the first step of the recovery. I then caught the tram and went back to Altrincham, where my hotel was, and watched, you probably see me, I was watching a lot of the other runners going through. And in the full edit, you'll see me where I actually, having ran the marathon, what do you do? Well, obviously, you get back on the course and run again. Yeah, that's what I ended up doing. There were so many of you guys who were shouting and waving, subscribers, and I've never met you all before, and I didn't have my glasses on. So for some, you know, I could hardly see people. It's all a bit of a blur. I could see shapes and people, but you know, so when my glasses, I sort of like, oh, like a bit like a mole or whatever. What's going on? But I jumped on the course and ran with a few of you, and I did film one or two. I didn't film everyone, and I know a lot of people had passed and waved, and I wasn't filming at the time, so sadly not on camera. But thank you all for waving and cheering at me. But I was just standing by the side watching you all run by, and it was great to see so many of that. But you know me, it's train, race, pizza. So the recovery is still going. So I went back, showered, changed. So I had changed out of all my run gear at Old Trafford. So you get out of my old sweaty, smelly gear and put on clean clothes, and then went back to the hotel, showered, cleaned up, put some clothes on, and went for that pizza. Oh, straight away. In Altrincham, there was a wonderful wood-fired oven pizza takeaway, for proper Neapolitan. A couple of Neapolitan lads running that one. So we have a good chat in Italian, as I do in my Italian lingo. So ate that pizza. That was about 3 o'clock, 2:30, 3 o'clock. So bearing in mind, I've finished at 12:30. So it's essential to get foods down us. And I understand, again, we're all different. Some people have issues taking food down, and lots of people have that. So it's nothing to be afraid of. It's not abnormal. I wouldn't say it's normal, but it's not abnormal. So find what works. That's why these drinks and protein drinks helps with the recovery. Flavored milk as well helps with recovery. But for me, I'm fine after a few hours. You know, within a couple of hours. If I finished at 12:30, had my pizza around 2:33. That's what, 2 hours. So nice, huge pizza, all the toppings, all the works. Wolfed that down. I then had a bit of a lie down, as you do. But then by about 5 o'clock, I was hungry again. So I went for a curry and had a nice big pint of beer. If you follow me on the socials, as I mentioned, you can find me, Poke with Pace, on Twitter and Instagram. I think I regularly post what I'm eating and drinking at the time that I'm eating and drinking. So you can see all those lovely foods that I'm having, foods and drinks. So I had a nice Cobra. I mean, I think it's bigger than a pint. I don't know how big these bottles are, but it looks like a litre bottle of wine, although it's beer. And I love my curries. So it came recommended from some local Altrincham people. So because I'd been carb loading for the whole week, I thought, let's have a bit of variety and have a curry. So I would have loved to have a curry the night before. I have done that once, not before a marathon, but before a half marathon. And then I PB'd the following morning at a half marathon after a curry. So, you know, it can work for some people, maybe not for others. So I always refer back to is what works for some doesn't work for others. Now, I'll refer back to Rod Lampert's question. Do I dedicate any training sessions solely to strengthening, stretching, or do you incorporate it as part of your runs? The simple answer to the question, hopefully, Rod, is I incorporate it as part of my runs, but at the beginning and at the end of the runs. So I don't do any strengthening or stretching during the runs. I do warm-ups. So if you're saying that's part of the stretching, so if I've got a session, say I'm doing 1K reps, I will do a 20-minute warm-up before that. So that's slow and easy. So that in itself is doing stretchings, and then you do a bit of strides, and then some hops and skips and jumps, and that's sort of stretching the muscles, get the muscles warm before I start doing some quick reps. So that's incorporating something as part of the runs. But before that, I'll just do standard old school, you know, that kind of stuff, moving me back, because I've, without boring you with all my life history and all the accidents and injuries I've had, you know, when you get to 60, or next month I'll be 61, I've had a bit of a, you know, lots of incidents to get through. So there's lots of issues going on around with me spine and back and stuff. So I do a lot of regular mobility every morning when I get out of bed. So most of my runs are in the morning. So before my run, I've already done my mobility exercises, already visited the loo and all that type of stuff. Maybe not, or depending on how long the run is. But at the end of every run, without exception, including the marathon, I do all the static stretches. I won't go through which specific ones I do it, because everyone does different ones, but the key ones is to stretch out your calves, quads, adductors, and all that type of stuff. And also, getting the back and the mobility back in, because sometimes it can stiffen up after a race. Hopefully that's answered your question, Rod. I might do a specific video, but I know that Rachel is online, and Rachel D, who has a YouTube channel, she's done some great videos on strength and conditioning that she does. But again, everybody is different, so I don't do any specific strength and exercises separate to the running. I may bring some in. I did do some a few years ago, but would you believe I got injured doing those, so I stopped doing them. I know. But I know that if a lot of people do hill reps to help build their strength as well. In terms of where I live, it's all pretty flat and canals. I can go to the Malverns for some hill reps, but it'll be a struggle for me to find any good hills to do hill reps here. So I live in a pretty flat area by a river and canals. So I'm sure there's some short, sharp hills, but hey, I've not done that type of work. So if there isn't any more questions that you might want to say and want to do there, I see that Collins, you know how disciplined you are with my strength and stretching warm-ups and warm-downs. That in itself takes dedication. And as Colin said, many people do neglect this, and it's important for the stretches. For a lot of people during a marathon, they don't do warm-up and stretches before the marathon, but you can use the early stage of slowly progressing as part of the warm-up before you get into the meat of the race. So Rachel has commented, she does do strength work, but never stretch. Oh, Rachel, you need to stretch after your runs. Yes. I think I take about 20 minutes, half an hour sometimes. So it's a lot of time, especially now whilst I'm recovering, because I'm still talking about recovery, because the recovery is continuing this week. So for me, I've incorporated, which has changed completely from previous training, where I've introduced, you might have seen on the social media, where I talk about jiggy jogs, jiggy jog, where we don't get jiggy during a jog, but it's a jiggy jog. I just thought a bit of a fun thing. But what it means is something really super slow pace. And a super slow pace is different for different people. For some people, it may be walking pace. And for me, it's around 9-minute miling. So find what works for you as an easy pace. So what I've incorporated now, and I found this out after the Cambridge Half Marathon, where normally I would have a rest for a day or two before I do any running, is I would incorporate some super slow, just 20 minutes. And that's all I've been doing each day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. And I'll be doing a video on recovery week, because recovery is essential as part of this. So I'm recording this each day. And today I've done a recording. Yesterday was massage of what I do as part of the recovery, because recovery, I believe, is as important, if not more important, than the race, because the recovery then enables us to move on to the next event, next race. Because if we don't recover properly, then it could build up stresses, which could then get us injured as we then start a training block for the next race or whatever's going to happen. So it's essential that we recover fully. And again, everybody recovers differently. My old way was I'd take a week to 2 weeks off after a marathon, no running, just walking. But as I say, over the past sort of 4 or 5 months, I've been almost running every day. Well, I did run every day all of March, and I'm still running every day. We're now, the 6th of April, so I'm still been running every day, but just 20 minutes. So Monday was very tough. And hey, Dave, just tuning in. And where were you? You'll have to replay all of this, Dave. But the training run, so on the Monday, as you can imagine, my legs were extremely sore. So running slowly was not an issue. I think I was around 9.5-minute mile pace, which is really slow for me. Only 20 minutes. So it's time on feet, not distance. So I'm not going to say I'm going to run for 3K or 5K or 10K. It's just 20 minutes. So 20 minutes Monday, 20 minutes Tuesday. But it was a little bit further than Monday because the legs are improving. And again, today, Wednesday, just 20 minutes. Tomorrow I might do 25 minutes, and the day after might be 25. Slowly build up. I may do a park run on Saturday, but at super slow jiggy jog pace, not going all out, sub 20 and all that. But yeah, so that's the recovery part. And Dave, yes, tune in. Hello, everyone, and well done to me. Yes, thank you so much. I'm glad I'm inspiring lots of people. It wasn't an intention. You don't often see, when you see a lot of stuff out there, a 60-year-old bloke like me, inspiring a lot of you young guys and so on, and some in similar ages to me. And what was amazing on, and I just wanted to conclude before I finish, is as I have a quick little drink, is that a number of people were asking, because I turn up to races and often get a trophy for age category, win races and so on and so forth. People asking, where did I come in my age category, 60 to 64? Well, I came 7th. Yeah, I know. So it was the day where the world record for my age category was broken by a wonderful, amazing guy who ran it in 2 hours and 30 minutes. Not bad for a 62-year-old, eh? So yeah, there's a lot of fast people out there. And so all I can say was that was amazing, and I love it. And as Austin often says, is
yeah, baby,
yeah. Yeah, baby, yeah. I hope you've enjoyed this quick race review. I've kept it sort of structured Q&A, very different to what a lot of people are giving you the opportunity to question, but I will be doing a review of kit and gear and all that stuff, because apparently some people want to know that. For me, that's not really a race review. That's more of for certainly some of the big YouTubers, it's just a promo for the gear that they're wearing, you know, shoes and all that kind of stuff. But I'm not really into that. But I will go through in terms of the clothing that I was wearing, and because again, the temperature determines what we wear. So I'll probably do a quick video on that. If you want me to do it live, let me know, and we can do it live, and I can show you all the gear, or I can do it as pre-recorded. So leave it in the comments for this. But all that remains for me is to say is tomorrow, as I say, there's the week's final taper week, which you might find useful, and it can help in terms of preparations for marathons that you may be doing later these few months or later in the year. And also I'll be doing the Saturday Smiles, yeah, and it'll probably be a short and sweet one, but I am currently recording the recovery week as well. And then next Tuesday we'll have the full edit of Manchester Marathon, where you'll see a lot more singing, a lot more dancing, and a few more warts and all edited back in. So it's the full edit version of that. And all that remains for me to say is a big thank you to each and every one. So many of you new guys and girls have joined in, and it's so refreshing to see and read the amazing comments that you all make. And it really warms my heart and makes me feel good that there's so many good people out there enjoying their running and doing it for the same ethos of me. I just love to run. It's my hobby. It's not a profession. I don't get paid to do this. I don't get freebies or anything like that. I'm just here for the love of the running. If people want to send me freebies, as Ian did with his Barry's tea, then feel free to send me freebies, shoes in particular, and running gear, and maybe sunglasses. I need some new sunglasses, but no, joking aside. Yeah, I think it's more about the food. I could do with pizza. Someone said I should be sponsored by a pizza company. Although I did love one of the funniest comments is one of the subscribers' daughter said that saw me at the finish post, and they said, "Hey Dad, I saw that friend of yours on YouTube who runs to McDonald's every day." And so that's how they know me, as the guy who runs to McDonald's. Yeah, the Church of the Runners. Yes, so Saturday Smiles with from the Church of the Runners. But one last little clip, because I've got to show you this, haven't I? Yes, indeedy. Thank you all so much for your time. Loved you being on here, and look forward to seeing you live next week on the full edit. But as I say, tomorrow, taper week, Saturday Smiles will be coming out. So keep it rocking, keep it rolling. Love you all. Take care. Bye-bye.